Tonight on CFTK-TV News, some revelations have been made in BC's short-term housing crackdown. A brand new tugboat made its way to Kitimat Village yesterday, and we'll look over the current landscape of BC's fire issues.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin. Here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond today. A shiny new fully electric tugboat pulled into its new home in Kitimat Village yesterday. The high-sea Wabis departed the Vancouver harbor for the final time this past weekend to sail home to Kitimat Village. High-Sea is a Heisler/C-SPAN partnership. 8 Heisler crew members bought the high-sea Wabis to dock at the MK Bay Marina. The boat is the world's first fully electric tugboat and one of 5 that are coming to Kitimat Village. For many generations, the Heisler Nation has successfully navigated the waters of the Douglas Channel. With high-sea marine, C-SPAN says they will continue to do so in one of the greenest tugboat fleets in the world. The rest of the fleet will arrive in Kitimat by mid-August and will support LNG carriers at LNG Canada's new export facility. Yesterday, Source 3X and the Skeena Industrial Development Park signed a memorandum of understanding to develop the Skeena Clean Hydrogen Hub. This project should be a large-scale hydrogen and fuel production center at the Skeena Industrial Development Park in Terrace. The purpose of this hub is to produce clean hydrogen from renewables and other energy sources to meet a growing demand for clean fuels in a transition to zero-carbon transportation. Once this project is fully developed, it will produce up to 50,000 tons of carbon-free hydrogen. Headquartered in Oakville, Ontario, this Source 3X hub is the first one that we'll see in northern BC. Police in BC are currently warning the public about what they described as a hitman scam. Prince George's RCMP said that the fraud involves victims who get texts or emails with threatening messages saying that the sender is being sent to kill them. Police say the offender officers would then offer to cancel the would-be contract on them in exchange for a lot of money and request the funds in cryptocurrency. Corporal Jennifer Cooper stated that the messages can be alarming, but it's important to remember that the scam is supposed to make people panic. The Mounties say criminals often find personal information about their victims by searching online, and they're encouraging people to review their publicly available details, then change their privacy settings. To the wildfire situation now, more than 350 fires are burning across the province right now, and while a shift in the weather has helped in some regions in the Kootenays, hundreds more were forced to flee their homes on the weekend. CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports.
A cluster of fires wreaking havoc in this southeastern section of the province, forcing hundreds of people out of their homes.
We've got 6 active fires in the complex in close proximity to Slocan Lake.
Jason Lawler is in charge of the team from Australia tasked with controlling those fires, which include the Alwyn and Cominco Creek blazes. On Sunday, more than 200 properties in the village of Slocan and more than 300 properties in the surrounding area were placed under evacuation order. Lawler says they are not expecting much improvement in the coming days due to weather and heavy smoke making it tough to deploy aircrafts.
The terrain is incredibly difficult. A lot of these fires have started through lightning strike, through dry storms that pass through really quickly, often in really inaccessible areas.
The neighboring village of Silverton also remains under an evacuation order, while many evacuees have come to New Denver, about 30 kilometers northeast of Slocan.
We had 2 fires. We had one on the top of the mountain, which was kind of going really fast to the left and coming down a bit. And then we had fires behind us that were coming up, and I actually jumped the highway.
New Denver is currently under an evacuation alert, but residents are doing what they can to support evacuees and fire crews.
The community is really coming together in this really beautiful way to support one another and also support the firefighters and emergency crews that are doing the really hard work of protecting our communities.
So far, there's been no official reports of structure damage. Officials say province-wide, some 2,000 people have been evacuated from their homes, while another 3,500 remain under evacuation alert, being asked to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News.
Coming up next is some insight into how BC's drought conditions are at the moment. Welcome back. The hot and dry weather in much of BC this month has made the wildfire fight much more challenging. But on the south coast at least, there's finally some relief with rain. But as CTV's Yasmin Gandhi reports, it's not cause to celebrate just yet.
It's not your typical summer day, and in fact, in July, we've hardly ever seen precipitation in Vancouver. But today and tomorrow, that's going to change.
It's really short-lived, and as the rain ends overnight and, scattered showers tomorrow, it really isn't until Wednesday where we're going to start to notice that drying start to rebound. So it's just more so, I would call it a blip in the summer road, but a welcome blip nevertheless.
It comes after a record-setting spring drought with the province's snowpack at the lowest it's been in 50 years. Most areas in BC saw below normal precipitation levels this spring, which contributed to the drought. With last summer's severe drought conditions, it is encouraging to have some rain in the forecast, but it doesn't make up for that low snowpack.
Again, a lot of British Columbia depends on that ice and that snow, which simply did not accumulate over the winter.
There are current water restrictions in effect from now until October. Residents and businesses are only able to water their lawns a maximum of one morning per week, and there are designated days depending on your address.
As soon as rains stop falling, the reservoirs begin to drain, and that can be a challenging situation for many communities.
It is clear from the spring drought warning earlier this year, every drop counts, and whatever people can do to conserve water is crucial during the hot summer months. Yasmin Gantam, CTV News, Coquitlam.
The province's crackdown on short-term rentals is revealing that thousands of homeowners are still making money from tourists when they shouldn't be. The new laws that came into effect in May were supposed to help tackle our housing crisis, but it appears there's a long way to go still.
3 months into BC's new Airbnb rules, the NDP government says nearly half of properties listed in communities that keep the data still aren't licensed.
That's a lot of housing that could be available to people who are struggling in our communities.
In 7 municipalities across BC, including Vancouver and Victoria, where the business license numbers are available, 22,406 properties are listed for short-term rental. But less than 12,000 business licenses have been issued.
There's a significant amount of properties right now that are listed on platforms that don't have local government business license approvals already.
In Victoria alone, the city says it's investigating more than 560 properties actively advertised that don't have a lawful license, but property rights groups call the numbers misleading, noting some properties are advertised on multiple sites.
One property could have 3 different listings, and that could be shown or reflected in this higher number.
And Airbnb challenges whether the new rules in place May 1st that limit short-term rentals effectively to a primary residence will provide more affordable housing, noting similar rules were already in place in Vancouver.
Rents in Vancouver continued to increase throughout 2018, 2019, 2020, short of the pandemic, and ever since.
Those who bought units as retirement nest eggs and can no longer rent them out short-term also cry foul.
I'm just really shocked that in Canada, in British Columbia, you can make an investment in your community and in the future for your family, and it could be ripped away from you like this.
But those caught breaking the rules could face steep fines, up to $5,000 a day for an operator or $10,000 a day for a platform. The province says so far it's issued 1,000 notices or warnings for illegal listings, but hasn't ramped up enforcement of fines yet.
There's still no word on when the Walmart in East Vancouver will reopen following a suspicious fire on the weekend. The entire store was suddenly evacuated when flames were spotted tearing through merchandise. And as CTV's St. John Alexander reports, police believe it was no accident.
As people yelled fire and backed away from flames that seemed to spark without warning. A frantic voice could be heard on the PA system, warning customers and employees. Just before 10 Saturday morning, fire was spotted shooting up from the bedding section of the Walmart on Grandview, flames easily reaching the ceiling.
So the store was open, it was full of people.
The entire store was evacuated. Firefighters called while staff did what they could to put it out. Flames now spreading across the aisle.
The damage is in the millions of dollars, so it was a very serious fire, and we're very thankful that no member of the public was injured.
The store is now cut off, barricades line the perimeter, and tents now stand where customers are meant to park, so crews can sort through the rubble in what's certainly a daunting task. It's still early in the investigation, but police believe someone did this on purpose. Now they will review surveillance video from the shop and neighboring cameras to figure out who started the fire and how they did it.
We believe that people who were shopping at the time may have seen something unusual. If they did, we asked them to call us. For now, Vancouver's only Walmart remains closed until further notice, as police search not only for a suspect, but also a motive. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is supposed to deal with periods of rain or drizzle at a low at 13. The Terrace-Kitimat area will see periods of rain or drizzle too as well, but a low of 12 instead, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is set to see a chance of showers as well as a low at 8 degrees. On the North Coast, the next week or so will deal with a little rain and clouds, but purely sunny days otherwise, plus a high that bounces between 15 and 20 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will be bookended by a rainy day and a partly cloudy day, but see lots of sun other than that as the high shifts from 14 to 26 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week should also see similar conditions, rain, then a stretch of sun, and a mixed sunny and cloudy day to end off, plus the high will move between 19 and 28 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, electrical maintenance, limited visibility, construction work, and mowing. Highway 118 has some bridge construction. Highway 37 has some roadside brushing and maintenance. Highway 37A has maintenance too, and there is some crack sealing on the Nishka Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a fear of war escalating after a recent rocket attack against Israel. Welcome back. There is fear across the Middle East of an escalation of war, which comes after Israel responded to Saturday's rocket attack on the Golan Heights by Hezbollah, killing at least 12 Israelis, mostly children. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more from Israel.
Rising fears of all-out war as Israel vows massive retaliation against Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants after this rocket attack on Saturday. 12 children killed playing on a soccer field. Israel says it's the worst attack against its civilians since October 7th. Hezbollah denying responsibility, but the IDF says the group fired from Lebanon into the Israeli-held Golan Heights. The U.S. condemning the attack, but urging restraint.
We stand by Israel's right to defend its citizens from terrorist attacks. We also don't want to see the conflict escalate.
The victims from the Druze religious minority buried in an emotional mass funeral, including 13-year-old John Ibrahim. His cousin Nia mourning him while also caring for her badly wounded younger brother.
I was gonna come to play and we will meet you at my grandma's house. I said, okay, don't be late and something. I closed the phone and boom, it's happened.
Everywhere, signs of a children's game cut brutally short.
The kids' bikes, their 4x4s, are exactly where they left them, and you can see there's a bomb shelter just feet away from the soccer field, but there wasn't enough time to get to it, and it is riddled with shrapnel.
A mountain village in mourning today for more young lives lost on all sides of this unforgiving war.
Given the tough economic times, many small businesses have been having a hard go of it lately. CTV's Martin McMahon is taking a closer look at the children's art and music studio in Vancouver that's in dire straits.
We're at risk of not only losing my businesses, but potentially having to sell our house and leave Vancouver.
Call it a sign of the times. Children's art and music studio Chorus and Clouds in Kitsilano is in a tough spot.
Oh, if I had wings, oh, I would fly like a bird in the sky.
While the original Mount Pleasant location is still a going concern, there's fear the second location in Kits won't make it because it's having trouble filling spots. Owner Jess Schellenberg posting a plea for community support on Instagram.
I think the economic landscape has really impacted families.
Schellenberg says she needs to find a way out of that lease, but the landlord won't let her break it for less than $130,000. Alternatively, she's looking for an investor or hoping the community rallies and fills out some of the classes.
To come up with those kind of funds is nearly impossible.
If the Kits studio does end up closing, parents say it would be a loss.
Well, they'd be losing on an amazing place to take their children for music, community. Jess runs a lot of even free programming that is open to the community over there, so I think that would be a big loss for that area.
And also, it's not only just entertainment. Jess and the other teachers, they teach the kids how to interact with other kids. They teach them how to listen and just to behave in general. So it's been a great experience.
It's hardly the only business struggling with insolvency spiking.
Consumers are dedicating or allocating more of their income to higher interest payments, higher mortgage payments. In this inflationary environment, we're seeing increases in rental costs as well. So then they have less discretionary income to spend on businesses.
And unless something changes, Schellenberg says the Kits studio will likely have to close in 2 months. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
A pilot and passenger have died in a small plane crash near Merritt. They were in a homemade plane that they could take off and land on water. A Merritt man who got to ride in it just 2 weeks ago remembers the owner and pilot as a family man with a love for flying. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
On this hillside 2 kilometers north of the Merritt Airport, the wreckage of a small 2-seater plane that crashed Sunday night. The pilot and passenger did not survive.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, it was like gut-wrenching that I was just in that plane not too long ago, and I know the guy that took me for a ride.
I get to go for a ride in this.
As part of Merritt's Airport Day on July 13th, Simon Rizzardo got a ride in the amphibious plane, taking off from the local airstrip and landing in a nearby lake.
Well, it's not very often that you're on a boat plane floating in the lake.
It was a amateur plane, if you want to call it that, I believe. Again, it had the ability to land on the water and on a tarmac, so very unique that way.
Rizzardo says the owner of the plane was an experienced pilot and a family man.
He was a super nice guy, easy to get along with. He was one of the ones that organized the event there for the airport day, and to know that that was him in the plane, it's gut-wrenching because he was a really big advocate for flight. He was telling me about his kids that basically got their flying license, I believe, before they got their driver's license at 16. So he was pretty happy about that.
RCMP are now working with the Transportation Safety Board and the coroner's office to determine what caused the crash.
I don't remember it being super windy. Merritt's known for its afternoon winds for sure, and hot days, but I don't think it was overly crazy for weather, but who's to know?
Something went catastrophically wrong during this plane's final flight. Authorities now need to figure out what happened and why. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 1/100 of a cent. The price of gold is up $26.40. Oil is down $1.08. Natural gas is up 7 cents. Aluminum is down $38.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 45.10 points. The Venture Index is down 1.44. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 203.40 and Nasdaq is down 222.78. Still ahead, Canada's been doing pretty okay for themselves at the Olympics. Welcome back. It's been a steady climb up the medal rankings for Team Canada at the Olympics. Our nation's athletes found themselves on the podium multiple times recently, including winning a pair of gold medals. CTV's Scott Hurst now with more from Paris 2024.
Summer McIntosh is an Olympic champion at 17 years old. The teenage swimming phenom touching the wall first, dominating the field, leading from start till finish in the grueling 400-meter individual medley. The young swimming sensation from Toronto proving why she was the heavy favorite going into the event. This is her second medal just 3 days into the Olympic Games. She already won silver in the women's 400-meter freestyle. In judo, Krista Deguchi with her own golden moment. She claimed Canada's first trip to the top of the podium in Paris. The world number one can now call herself Olympic champion. The 28-year-old dispatching the world number 3 South Korean athlete in the 57-kilo final. She is already Canada's most decorated female judoka and now Canada's first ever Olympic champion in the sport. Earlier in the day, history was already made in the diving pool. Ryland Weens and Nathan Zomber Murray winning bronze in the men's synchronized 10-meter platform. It's Canada's first ever Olympic medal in the event and Canada's first medal in any men's diving event since Beijing 2008. Olympic dreams now a reality for the diving pair.
Seeing that my dreams that I have been working so hard are realized now, and it's just a special moment that I'm so glad that my family could be here to watch, and a moment I'll never forget.
And yet another twist in the drama unfolding around the women's soccer team. The Canadian Olympic Committee and Canada Soccer are appealing FIFA's 6-point penalty in the wake of the drone spying scandal. The team will not seek an appeal on coach suspensions. A decision is expected to be made on Wednesday. Scott Hurst, CTV News, Toronto.
The BC government is using $2 million from its Innovative Clean Energy Fund to establish a battery innovation center at the University of BC's Okanagan campus, describing the project as the first of its kind in Western Canada. The Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation says work at the center will focus on research and development of new battery technologies. It says the center will serve as a hub for scaling up next-generation technologies with the potential to offer lower-cost alternatives to lithium-ion batteries. Energy Minister Josie Osborne says people and industries increasingly rely on battery-powered devices for everything, from electric vehicles to medical devices, and the new center will help grow BC's battery sector. Hotel workers at the Residence Inn in Vancouver have given their employer 72-hour strike notice. A statement from the Unifor says that the notice could mean workers could be on strike as early as August 1st at noon, just days before a busy long weekend. The statement says the workers are fighting for fair wages that reflects the high cost of living in the Lower Mainland. The union represents more than 70 people working in housekeeping, front desk, maintenance, and food and beverage departments. That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.